Hello and welcome back to STEM and Familiar. And in this lesson, we're going to look at Signal 006. This is the latest Signal exam. You're going to solve this paper fully. Therefore, kindly stay up to the end so that you can learn, prepare, and revise for your final exam. We're going to start with section A, which has 20 marks. The first question reads, during games time, a pile of paper, we have paper, and wooden furniture caught in fire in a residential house near the school. The fire spread rapidly, and there was a risk of it spreading to other areas. Which class of fire is this likely to be, and what type of extinguisher should be used to put off? Option A, Class A, use water-based extinguisher. B, Class B, use foam extinguisher. Class C, use carbon dioxide extinguisher. Class D, use dry powder extinguisher. So this is grade 8 work. You know that we have several classes of fire. And in my previous video, I gave you a song. So remember, for class A for ash. So this is fire caused by things like wood, plastic, clothes, which at the end of the day, we get ash. And from our question, this fire is caused by pile of paper and wooden furniture. And therefore, from the options, we can see here we have class A. Therefore, the correct option is class A. And the extinguisher to use is we use water-based extinguisher. The reason is because water cool the burning material. And therefore, the correct option is A. We continue to question number 2. David observed a chemical bottle in the laboratory with the symbol below. Here we have the symbol. What safety concern does this symbol represent? So you have a skull and bones. A, flammable. B, corrosive. C, toxic. D, irritant. So to start with, it is not flammable, because you know that the flammable is represented by a flame symbol. Going to B, it is not corrosive. Corrosive is shown by a substance eating away at a hand or surface. Also, it is not irritant. Irritant is always represented by exclamation mark. And therefore, the correct option is C. This is toxic. That substance shown here, it is toxic. We continue with question number 3. During a class experiment, Sarah mixed water. So we have water and alcohol and was asked to separate them. Which of the following methods is most suitable for separating the mixture? A, chromatography. B, simple distillation. C, filtration. D, sublimation. So which one do you think is the correct answer? So to start with, it is not chromatography. This is used to separate mixtures of pigments, for example, ink or dye. It is not filtration, because filtration works for insoluble solids in a liquid. But also it is not sublimation. Sublimation is usually used when one of the substances sublimes, e.g. iodine. Therefore, since these two are miscible liquids, we're going to use simple distillation. And therefore, the correct option is B. Question number 4. Laboratory container holds water up to a height of 3 meters. Calculate the pressure exerted by the water at the bottom of the container. Assume the density of water is 1,000 kilogram per cubic meter, and the acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meter per second square. So you know that for solids, pressure is given by force over area. This is the formula for pressure in solids. Now, for liquids, pressure is given by height exerted by the liquid or the air column, multiplied by the density, we use rho, multiplied by G, where G is the gravitational force. So the height is here, 3 meters. The units must be in meters. This is okay. We're going to take 3. So 3 multiplied by the density of water is 1,000. So this will be multiplied by 1,000. Then finally multiplied by G, where G is the gravity. So we're going to multiply by 9.8. So if you multiply this keenly, you'll see that the correct option is C, which is 29,400 pascals. So this is the units for pressure. And therefore, that is the correct option. We continue to question number 5. A teacher opened a perfume bottle in one corner of a room. At the same time, the amount is the scent is detected throughout the entire room. It is not visible. So they are trying to the entire room. So they're asking, name the process that the perfume, the scent was able to spread through the entire room. A, osmosis. B, diffusion. C, filtration. D, evaporation. So to start with, know that it is not filtration, and also it is not evaporation. Osmosis is basically movement of water molecules, and therefore here we have movement of the scent. The scent is not water, and therefore osmosis is wrong. The correct option is B. Diffusion is the movement of particles from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. We continue to question number 6. Here we have a very good question. An automotive engineer needs a metal for manufacturing engine components. So manufacturing engine components that can withstand high temperatures and the mechanical stress. Which metal is most suitable? A, aluminium, B, cast iron, C, steel, D, copper. Which one do you think is the correct option? So to start with, it cannot be aluminium because we know that aluminium is light and not strong. Here we're talking about an engine, and therefore you need a stronger metal. Also, it is not cast iron. Cast iron is brittle and it can break. Also, it is not copper. Copper is very soft. It is good for wiring and therefore not for engines. So the most suitable is steel. Steel can withstand high temperatures and also mechanical stress. We go to question number 7. Below is an illustration of a food chain in a certain habitat. Here we have maize, mice, snake, hawk. Remember, in a food chain, the arrow shows the eater. So we continue. Which one of the following animals is in the same level as the mice? So you can see the mice is eating the maize. The maize are the producers. And then the mice, these are the primary consumers. So section part A, option A, we have goat, B, lion, C, bacteria, D, vulture. So it is not bacteria. Bacteria are decomposer, not the same level as mice. It is not lion. Lion is a top carnivore, not same level. Also, it is not a vulture, because you know that vultures are scavengers. And therefore, goat is in the same level as mice because goats are primary consumer. They eat grass and grass are the producers. And therefore, the correct option is A, goat. You continue to question number 8. Which one of the following is a method of conserving water by reusing? A, spreading organic material on the base of a plant. B, cleaning toilets using water that was used in rinsing clothes. C, turning off the taps when they are not in use. D, boiling dirty water and cooling the steam. So, part D, it is not the correct option. Boiling is purification, not reusing. Also, turning off, this is conserving by reducing use, not reusing. So when you turn off, you are reducing the use, and therefore you're not reusing. What about A, spreading? This is not a good example of reusing, and therefore the correct option is B, which is cleaning toilets using water that was used in rinsing clothes. That's what we mean by reusing. You reuse the water. Question number 9. Which one of the statement below is true about reproduction in human beings? Part A, a zygote can implant itself anywhere in the uterine wall. B, the gestation period in human beings is about 12 months. C, fertilization occurs after implantation. D, fertilization of the ovum occurs in the uterus. Which one is true? To start with C, fertilization occurs after implantation. That is not true. The fertilization is the one that occurs first and then later implantation, whereby the zygote attaches itself to the uterine walls. What about D? Fertilization of the ovum occurs in the uterus. That is not true. You know that it occurs in the oviduct, not the uterus. So we remain with A and B. Look at A. A zygote can implant itself anywhere in the uterine wall. It cannot be anywhere. So when it is anywhere, it leads to what we call ectopic pregnancy, and therefore it is not anywhere. That is very wrong. The correct option is B, that the gestation period in human beings is about 12 months. That is true. So after 12 months, that is when the human beings give birth. Continue to question number 10. A group of learners visited a grassland that was inhabited by chameleons, flowers, many butterflies, and hawks. Which one of the inhabitants was the most abundant in the grassland? A, chameleons, B, hawks, C, flowers, D, butterflies. So from our question here, we're talking about grassland. And therefore, plants are the most abundant. You know that plants are the producer. And therefore, the most abundant in the this ecosystem in the grassland is the flowers, and therefore it is C. Flowers is the most abundant in the grassland. We continue to question number 11. 4 samples of water collected from different sources were boiled until they evaporated. The amount of salts present was collected and weighed as shown in the table below. Here we have water sample, A, B, C, D. Here we have salt in grams. 3 grams, 2.5 grams, 0.8 grams, 4.2 grams. Which water sample was likely to have been rainwater? So which one? We have A, C, B, C, C, D, then here we have A. So we know that rainwater is fresh water, and therefore the amount of dissolved salt is very few. So when you look here, the one which the grams, the lowest is 0.8, the salts in grams 0.8, and therefore this is likely to be rainwater. And therefore the correct answer we have AC, also BC, and therefore these two are correct, because you know that rainwater is soft water, and therefore the amount of dissolved salt is very the quantity is few. We continue to question number 12. In an investigation, equal amounts of soap were added to equal amounts of water, samples X and Y, obtained from different sources. Roman 1, X is not the best for drinking. Roman 2, Y formed suspended particles. Each one of the following statements about X and Y below is correct. A, X may have a lot of minerals. B, Y may form lather after boiling. X can form scales in pipes. And then finally, Y does not waste soap when washing. So from this information, Y formed suspended particles. This means that this is hard water. So the suspended particles, we call it the scum. So this is hard water. This is hard water. Hard water. This one is not the best for drinking. So this is soft water. And the reason is because it lacks the minerals, the magnesium and calcium ions, which makes the bones and the teeth to be strong. So this is soft water. We're going to look at the properties of this. So they're saying X may have a lot of minerals. This is not true. What about C? X can form scales in pipes. Soft water doesn't form scales in pipes. That one is not true. Also part D, Y does not waste soap in washing. So we know that hard water does not lather easily with soap, and therefore it's going to waste a lot of soap. So when saying does not waste soap, that is not true. And therefore we are left with B, which says Y may form lather after boiling. So we know that when you boil the hard water, you're going to remove the hardness, and therefore it can form lather. That is, it's going to lather easily in soap. And therefore the correct option is B. We continue to question number 13. Below are characteristics of plants found in certain environments. Roman 1, sunken stomata. Roman 2, brickworks cuticle. Roman 3, long and spread roots. Which one of the following plants does not have the above characteristics? So here we have a euphorbia. Here we have baobab. C, we have cactus. And D, we have duckweed. So which one is the correct answer? So from these features, sunken stomata, brickworks cuticle, and long and spread roots, these are features for plants which are found in dry environments. We call them xerophytes. It's good we know the name. We call them xerophytes. They are found in dry environment. So euphorbia has these characteristics. It is found in dry environment. Also cactus, it has brickworks cuticle to store water, and also baobab. Therefore, the one that is not found in this environment, the desert environment, the dry environment, is duckweed. Duckweed is a sea plant. This is a sea plant. So if you have time, you can search in the internet and see the images of duckweed. So this is not found in dry environment. So the correct option is D. Continue to question number 14. The following are processes involved in the formation of a seed in plants. Roman 1, growth of pollen tube. Roman 2, pollination. Roman 3, fission. Roman 4, pollen tube breaks. This is the correct order of the processes. So you know that for any seed to be formed, pollination occurs first. So this one is going to be the first one. So pollination. So we're going to start with from 1, 2, pollination. And then after pollination, and then the growth of pollen tube. So pollen tube is going to grow. Pollen tube is going to grow down the style. And therefore, from Roman 2, the next step is growth of pollen tube. And then the next step is pollen tube breaks. This one, Roman 4. And the reason pollen tube breaks to release the male nuclei. So it breaks after growing, it breaks to release the male nuclei. I'm going to write here the male nuclei. Then finally, after breaking, then we have what we call fission of the male and the female gametes. So Roman 3 is the last one, fission of the female and the male gametes, which we call fertilization. And therefore, the correct option is Roman 2, 1, 4. So 2, 1, 4, and then 3. And therefore, it is A. That is the correct option. We continue to question number 15. Which of the following characteristics listed below of plants that grow in dry areas is correctly matched with its function in survival of the plant? A. Needle-like leaves reflect sunlight. B. Deep roots reduce water loss. C. Normal hairs trap moisture. D. Underside stomata can increase water loss. We're going to start with which one do you think is the correct option? So to start with B, this one is not the correct option. So deep roots, they have said to reduce water loss. That is wrong. Deep roots, the function is to access deep water, to absorb the water that is found deep inside the soil. And therefore, when it's saying to reduce water loss, that is not true. What about part D? Underside stomata, that the function is to increase water loss. That is not true. Underside stomata, this statement is false. It is not a correct statement. What about normal hairs trap moisture? It should be tiny hairs, so not normal. So when you say normal hairs, then this statement is imprecise. So you need to say tiny hairs to trap moisture. So they have used normal hairs. The correct option is A. They have needle-like leaves to reflect sunlight. I'm going to explain. So needle-like leaves, example is pine. They have pines and cactus pines. The reason is to reduce surface area and reflect sunlight to minimize water loss. So they have needle-like leaves to reflect sunlight to minimize water loss. We continue to question number 16. 15, the correct option is A. Which one of the following pairs of processes of change of state of matter have a warming effect to the surrounding? This means that after the process, as the process is taking place, there is what we call a warming effect. A. Evaporation and freezing. B. Melting and condensation. C. Freezing and condensation. D. Melting and evaporation. Which one do you think is the correct answer? So I'm going to leave you this. I'm going to give you this as an assignment to tell us in the comment section which one do you think is the correct process that has a warming effect to the surrounding. Please let us know in the comment section so that you also learn. Continue to question number 17. The 9 learners carried out the following activities when measuring force. Roman 1, suspending each material on a spring balance. Roman 2, taking the reading on the spring balance. Roman 3, tying a small string on each of the materials. Roman 4, recording the results in a table. Arrange the steps in the correct order. So you know that the first step is to tie a small string on each of the material. After tying, you suspend each material on a spring balance. And then after suspending now, we're going to take the reading in the spring balance. And then finally, we're going to record the results in the table. Therefore, we're going to start with Roman 3. Roman 3. From 3, we go to suspending. So this is the correct option. So you tie, then you suspend, then you take the reading, and then you record. So that is the correct order. We continue to question number 18. Here we have question which says, the following are signs and symptoms of sexually transmitted diseases. A. Painless sores on penis. B. Sore throat. Roman 3. Blindness and insanity. Roman 4. Skin rashes. The disease described above is likely to be A. Chancroid. B. Gonorrhea. C, HIV and AIDS, D, syphilis. This is grade 8 work. Second, do you think is the correct option? To start with, it is not gonorrhea. Gonorrhea causes painful urination and discharge, not insanity or blindness. Also, it is not HIV and AIDS. We know that HIV and AIDS weakens immunity. It is an opportunistic infection, but it does not cause what we call painless sore. What about chancroid? This one is not the answer. Therefore, the correct option is syphilis. Syphilis is the one which is described in this, the characteristic is given above. So, primary stage of syphilis, we have painless sore. So this is at primary stage. And then at the secondary stage, we have rashes. So rashes, when you see rashes, this is at the secondary stage. And finally, we have the tertiary stage. It is not treated. It can lead to serious diseases or infections, such as serious issues, including blindness. So blindness is a serious issue when syphilis is not treated. Therefore, correct option is D. We continue to question number 19. When constructing a certain simple machine, class 5 pupils collected the following materials: nails, piece of wood, 2 tins of the same size, then strings. The simple machine constructed is used to A, compare mass of different objects, B, measuring forces used in lifting objects, C, balancing pupils of different masses, D, measuring the strength of wind. So which one do you think is the correct option? So from this description, here we have 2 tins of the same size. The students are making a pulley system. Here we have a string, tins, and wood plus nails. They want to make what we call a pulley system, which is a simple machine. And therefore, when you're saying to compare masses for option A, this one is not true. They can use balances, not pulley. What about part C, balancing pupils of different masses? This is a measuring force. This is not true. Also, measuring the strength of wind. You can use things like, that the strength, you can use windsock, and therefore, the correct option is B. Measuring force used in lifting objects. So, you're going to measure the forces used in lifting object, and therefore, the correct option is B. We continue to question number 20. The following are characteristics of insect and wind-pollinated flowers. They have flat sticky stigmas. Roman 2. Anthers and filaments hang out. Then Roman 3. The flower is large. Roman 4. The pollen grains are few and heavy. Roman 5. They do not produce nectar. Which group consists of characteristics of insect-pollinated flowers only? So you have options here. So when you have for example, from 1 5, they do not produce nectar. This one is not true. This one is for wind-pollinated flowers. You know that their flowers for insect-pollinated, they produce nectar to attract the insect. And therefore, any option with Roman 5 is grammatically wrong. So for option A, because it has 5, it is wrong. And also for B, it is wrong. So you are left with C and D. So let us look keenly. Roman 2, anthers and filament hang out. This one is not true. For insect-pollinated flowers, the anthers and the filament don't hang out. They are inside the flower. So this is for wind. And the reason is because they hang out so that they can release the pollen grains into the wind. And therefore, the option with Roman 2, C, is not the correct option. For Roman 2, anthers and filament hang out. This is for wind-pollinated flowers. Therefore, we are left with the D, which is Roman 1. They have flat sticky stigmas. That is true. Roman 3, the flower is large. And finally, Roman 4, the pollen grains are few and heavy. So the correct option is D. So you're through with section A. Thank you so much for following along. You can like the video so that this video can also reach other learners like you. You need to continue with section B, which is 30 marks. So here we have structured questions. I'm going to show you how you answer structured questions. We're going to start with the first question, question number 21. Grade 9 learners set up an experiment as shown below to investigate an aspect of osmosis. Here we have very concentrated sucrose solution. Then here we have concentrated sucrose solution. Then here we have glass tube 1, glass tube 2, then the liquid level. Part A, what observation was made after 30 minutes? So it was left for 30 minutes. So what is the observation? 1 mark. So the observation that is going to be made is there was a greater rise in water level in glass tube 1 than in glass tube 2. This is glass tube 1. This is glass tube 2. So after 30 minutes, the water level will be more. The water level will be more than in glass tube 2. So you state, get 1 mark. Then part B. Explain the observation the learners made in A above. What is the observation? More water moved into the Biskin tubing in the very concentrated sucrose solution by osmosis than in Biskin tubing in the concentrated solution, leading to greater rise in liquid level in glass tube 1 and in glass tube 2. Since this is very concentrated compared to this other one, more water will move in. That's why the water level rises more in glass tube 1 than in glass tube 2. So you get those 2 marks. Continue to question number 2. Naomi came across a leaf with loosely arranged and irregular shaped spongy mesophyll cells when carrying out her research from the print media resources. What is the significance of this arrangement of cells in a leaf? So you know that for internal parts of a leaf, the spongy mesophyll, the shape is irregular and they are loosely arranged. They are not packed as compared to the palisade. So the question is asking, what is the importance of that? So the reason is to create large air spaces in the leaf that permits easy circulation of air within the leaf, ensuring that carbon dioxide gets to the photosynthetic cell. The reason is to allow easy circulation of air within the leaf. So you state that way, you need to score those 2 marks. Continue to question number 23, a very common question. If you are keen, if you have been following my tutorials, this question you have discussed it severally. Here we have question number 23. Potato plant was kept in the dark for 48 hours. 2 leaves X and Y were treated as illustrated in the picture below. Here we have leaf Y, then here we have leaf X. And I'm going to read. Here we have transparent polythene bag. Then here we have potassium hydroxide pellets. Then here we have transparent polythene bag. The experiment setup was kept in sunlight for 6 hours, after which a starch test was carried out on 2 leaves. What were the results of the starch test on the leaves X and Y? So leaf Y, you have potassium hydroxide inside. Leaf X, here we have nothing. It's only transparent polythene bag. So what is the observation? So the result is going to say leaf X turned blue-black, indicating presence of starch. So for leaf X, this is the leaf X. This is Y. So leaf X turned blue-black, indicating the presence of starch. What about leaf Y? Leaf Y retained the brown color, indicating the absence of starch. So this one is going to remain brown, indicating absence of starch. What is the reason? That is part B. Give reasons for your answers in A above. So I'm going to explain this. So leaf X, this one, it was exposed to all factors necessary for photosynthesis, hence carried out photosynthesis, hence starch was formed. So this one is exposed to all factors of photosynthesis like carbon dioxide, sunlight, and therefore photosynthesis took place. That's why it turned the blue-black, indicating that there was starch. But for leaf Y, potassium hydroxide, here we have potassium hydroxide. Pellets absorbed carbon dioxide gas in the transparent bag. Hence, no photosynthesis took place and no starch was formed. So when you see potassium hydroxide, just remember it is going to absorb carbon dioxide present, and therefore you know that carbon dioxide is absent, then photosynthesis will not take place. And that's why it never turned the blue-black on the iodine solution. We continue to question number 24. Some sodium chloride was found to be contaminated with copper 2 oxide. Describe how a sample of solid sodium chloride can be obtained from the mixture. 3 marks. Here you have 2 elements. So this is a compound, sodium chloride. Then you have copper 2 oxide. So you're going to separate this mixture. So the first step is to put the mixture in a beaker, then add water. We're going to add water. Sodium chloride, this is like salt. You know that the name for salt is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride will dissolve while copper 2 oxide does not. And then after dissolving, we separate the insoluble copper 2 oxide by filtration and collect sodium chloride as a filtrate. Heat the filtrate to saturation, allow the saturation solution to cool and form crystal. And by that process, you need to separate the two. So first you put the mixture, add water. After adding water, remove the copper 2 oxide by filtration, and then the filtrate, which has sodium chloride, we're going to heat to obtain the sodium chloride. That is basically how we can separate the two mixtures. We're going to continue with the question number 25. A grade 9 learner reacted the metal P with steam to form an oxide Q, which is yellow when hot and turns white on cooling. During the reaction, gas R was produced. Identify substances P, Q, and R. 3 marks. Write a chemical equation for the reaction between metal P and steam. So this is the leading information. So the metal oxide, the oxide forms, it is yellow when hot and turns white on cooling. So you know that this is zinc oxide. So zinc oxide is a solid which is when heated, it is yellow and hot and turns white on cooling. Therefore, we're going to say the metal is called zinc oxide. The metal oxide is called Q is zinc oxide. So from this name, then the metal P is zinc. Automatically, metal P is zinc. So when we react zinc and steam, we get zinc oxide, and the gas which released is called hydrogen gas. So the gas released is hydrogen gas. So we get those 3 marks. Part B, write a chemical equation for the reaction between metal P and steam. So chemical equation, we have word equation and chemical equation. Chemical equation means we're going to write the chemical symbol for this reaction. So we're going to start with the zinc. The symbol for zinc is Z, capital Z, small n, and it is a solid. So S for solid. When we react with the steam is water, H2O. We obtain zinc oxide. You get zinc oxide. So zinc oxide is ZnO, which is a solid, plus the hydrogen gas, so plus H2 for hydrogen gas. So that is the reaction, the chemical equation for reaction between metal P and steam. We get that 1 mark. Continue to question number 26. The table below shows some properties of 3 metals. Easy to answer the questions that follow. Here we have aluminium, iron, and copper. We have the densities 2.7, 7.86, 8.92. We have the tensile strength and the electrical conductivity. So part A, why does some stainless steel have similar properties to iron? So 1 mark. You know that stainless steel is an alloy of iron and carbon. So the reason is because stainless steel contains a high percentage of iron, so it shares similar property. So that is the reason. For part B, aluminium with a steel core is used for overheated power cables in preference to copper. Why is aluminium preferred? 2 marks. We're going to give 2 points. So the first reason is because aluminium is less dense. So from this table, you can see density of aluminium is 2.7. That of copper is 8.92. Therefore, copper is more heavier than aluminium. Therefore, we're going to say aluminium is less dense, that is lighter than copper, making it more suitable for long spans of overhead cables. Then I'm going to give you another reason. The reason is because aluminium is cheaper compared to copper. So those are the 2 reasons, and then you're going to get 2 marks. Part C, apart from overhead power cables, copper is chosen for almost all other electrical uses. Suggest 1 reason for the choice of copper. You will know that copper is a very good conductor of electricity. Therefore, the reason is because copper has a very high electrical conductivity. From this table, you can see the electrical conductivity of copper is 0.60, which is the highest from these other 2 elements. And therefore, that is the reason you get 1 mark. So we're done with question 26. Let us go to 27. Study the information in the table below, then answer the question that follows. The letter does not represent the symbol of the elements. So you have element, you have X, Y, Z, atomic number 14, 17, and 19. Select an element that is a poor conductor of electricity. So which one is the poor conductor of electricity? So this is the atomic number, means that it has 14 protons. So we know that this is silicon. So this is silicon. I'm going to say Si. So X, I'm going to write here the electron configuration for X. So silicon is atomic number, its atomic number is 14, and therefore we have 2 then 8, then 4, which stands for, this is silicon. Let us go to Y. Y, you have 17, so this is 2. We have 8, we have 7. This is chlorine. Then finally, we have Z. Z, we're going to write here. So Z here we have 19. So its electron configuration, it will be 2, 8, then 8, 1. So this is potassium. So which one is a poor conductor of electricity? So from this given information, you know that this is a metal. It is a very good conductor of electricity. What about these two? So silicon is a metalloid. What about chlorine? Chlorine is a non-metal. And therefore, one which is a poor conductor of electricity is chlorine. Chlorine is a non-metal. Therefore, we're going to say it is element. Why? Don't say chlorine. Just say the element that you are given. So it is element. Why? To get that 1 mark. Part B. Write the electronic configuration of element X. Already you have done it here. X will be 2, 2, 8, 4. We get 1 mark. Remember, the first energy level carries a maximum of 2 electrons. Then the second energy level, third energy level, and the fourth, they carry maximum of 8 electrons. So when we have 14, we write it this way: 2 plus 8, it is 10, 10 plus 4, we get 14. Therefore, that is the electronic configuration of element X. So that is the answer to part B. Then part C, draw a diagram showing the electron configuration of element Z. So for Z, here we have element Z. It is going to have how many energy levels? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to show you how to draw. So here we have our drawing here. So our drawing is here. You can see this is the nucleus. And then the first energy level has 2 electrons. Then the second energy level has 8 electrons. That energy level has also 8 electrons. And then finally, the fourth energy level, the fourth one has 1 electron. So this is the drawing to show the electronic arrangement. We continue with our question. So that is the answer to part C. Just draw neat circles. Here we have number 28. While walking to school, Tamara and Leonard came across the plant illustrated in the picture below. Study it carefully, then answer the question that follow. Identify the likely habitat of the plant that the learners came across, and give one reason for your answer. So my diagram is not that clear. Therefore, I'm going to give you my diagram. This diagram is not clear, the diagram for this paper. And therefore, I made a picture which I'm going to show so that we can answer question number 28. So for question number 28, the diagram is here. So this is the picture. So this is the picture for that question. So here we have a plant. Let's go back and answer the question. So part A, identify the likely habitat of the plant the learners came across. So habitat means the specific environment, the specific place where this plant lives or where this plant is found. So we know that. Let us go back and see for the last time. This is a desert. You can see it is very dry. So specific habitat, can say the habitat is a desert. So it is a desert. So that is the answer to part A, desert. Give one reason for your answer. So we give one reason. So you can see this plant has what we call a thick succulent stem. So it has a very thick stem to store water. Also it has what we call needle-like. You can see here we have needles to prevent water loss through transpiration. So you can give any. So you can say it has a thick stem. So it has a thick succulent stem. Thick succulent stem to store water. Thick succulent stem for storing water. So for storing water, because the space is limited, I'm not going to write the other sentence. So it has what we call a thick succulent stem. The reason is to store water. Question number 29. During a school cleanup exercise, learners collected waste items including plastic, bottles, glass containers, food leftovers, and paper. The teacher asked them to sort the waste appropriately. Classify the waste into biodegradable and non-biodegradable categories. Here we have 2 marks. Then part B, Suggest one method of disposing of the biodegradable waste. And finally, why is it important to separate waste into different categories? So here we know that biodegradable, it is we have things like food leftovers. So it is biodegradable. So food leftovers, and also paper. Paper is biodegradable. What about non-biodegradable? It is things like, we have plastic bottles, plastic bottles, they don't decompose. So biodegradable, they decompose over time, while non-biodegradable, they don't decompose easily. Plastic bottles, glass containers. So these are non-biodegradable. They will not decompose easily. Part B, suggest one method of disposing of the biodegradable waste. So how can we dispose this one which can decompose easily? So the best way, or one method, is by compost. We can do by making what we call a composite manure, that is composting. So we get that one mark. Part C, why is it important to separate waste into different categories? Why do we have to separate them to different categories? I'm going to explain it for you. So the reason is it makes waste management easier and protects the environment through recycling and proper disposal. So the reason for separating is to make waste management easier, but also to protect the environment through what we call recycling and proper disposal. So thank you so much. That is the end of this paper. Please consider subscribing and also liking this video so that all other learners like you can also find this video helpful. Wish you all the best as you prepare for your final exam. See you in the next video.